So, last week we focused on simplifying radicals, okay, adding and subtracting radicals, multiplying radicals, dividing radicals, and this week we're going to focus on solving radicals, okay? So, just like you would solve an equation, okay, our job when we solved an equation is to get x by itself. Guess what? That's our goal again. But first, we must get our radical by itself. So, in example number 1, our goal is to get this radical all by itself. Okay? That means I need to get rid of everything outside of it first. So, what's outside of my radical?
3.
A positive 3. How do I get rid of a positive 3? By subtracting it. We got to throw it to the other side. So, we subtract. Square root of x then is equal to 7. Okay? What'd you say? X is 49. Okay? I need to get x by itself. So what's the opposite of taking the square root? Squaring it. So if I square this side and square that side, I get x equals 49. Woo! Good.
Yeah, it is.
This means A plus plus for Brandon. A plus plus for Brandon.
My grand's gonna go from like a 40 after you update power school to like a 42.
Oh gosh. All right. Your last thing though, okay? Just like with everything when you solve for x, you need to make sure that it works. So we're going to plug it back into the original equation and make sure it works. So we've got the square root of 49 plus 3 equals 10. What's the square root of 49? 7. And what is 7 plus 3? 10. So yes, 49 is my answer.
You're a math wizard.
Okay. All right. Example number 2. Everybody's dying on me.
Don't worry, I was dying yesterday at church. This dude behind me gave me a coffee cup too.
Focus. Again, yes. Yes.
Hey, Miss Smith, you cough drop.
Yeah, you did. It's okay. Skip down to that one, so. Yes.
That cough drop.
Okay. Example number 2. Again, my first goal is to get my radical all by itself. So what's outside of my radical?
-3.
-3. What's happening if it's just hanging out in front of the radical? It's multiplied. So how do I get rid of it then?
Divide by -3.
Divide by the -3.
Could it be +3 or no?
It's going to be a negative because that negative sign's there. Okay. However, though, on the right-hand side, I'm dividing a negative by a negative, which means my answer is going to come out to be a positive 6. You're a genius, Brandon.
Okay, cool. I was making sure I did
No,
that right.
you're absolutely correct.
Because I did what you did on the first one was like you get rid of them like add or subtract, and then I was like that's not right. But Brandon has a like that's 36 because you divide it all and square it back to 36.
You did
I
it.
you could think, bro. Shut up, Jeremiah. At least I can think about burning the
As
house
long as
down.
you're on the same one. Stop. Enough.
Sorry, you don't have a house. You
Enough. Okay. Once the radical's all by itself, you need to do the opposite of taking the square root, which you told me before was squaring it. Well, when I square the left, I'm left with x. What I do to the left, I must do to the right, which means I'm left with 36. Again, plug it in and check it. Make sure it's going to work. So we've got -3 square roots of 36 equals -18.
root of 36 is 6.
Square root of 36 is 6, and 6 times negative 3 is? Negative 18. Good. So that works. So 36 is your answer. Okay? Take a look at the other one. Again, my goal. Radical by itself.
Plus 5.
Add 5 to both sides first. So you get 2 square roots of x equals 4.
And then do you divide by positive 2?
Absolutely. Again, I'm still trying to get this by itself, so I need to get rid of that 2. So we divide. So the square root of x equals 2.
Square is 4.
So when I square both sides, x equals 4. Again, plug it in and make sure it works. So 2 times the square root of 4 minus 5. Well, what's 2 times the square root of 4?
4.
And 4 minus 5 is? Negative 1. So, yes, this works. And x equals 4. What'd you say? When you plug it back in. You plug it back in and get the square root of 4 is 2.
Yeah.
You've got 2 times 2, which is 7. Okay. Questions on any one of those 3?
No.
Okay. Flip it again.
No, it's fine.
You good?
Yes.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh.
Is that what your doctor says? Uh-oh.
Yes. Uh-oh. Okay. I now have a radical on both sides. Oh, man.
This is
Okay.
Oh golly.
To be honest with you, I think these ones are easier than the ones you just did.
What?
What?
Explain.
Okay. So, we need to get rid of the radicals when they're on both sides. Well, how do I get rid of the radicals?
I forgot.
Squaring it. So watch what happens. Remember, what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So if I square the left, I'm left with x plus 4. And when I square the right, I'm left with 2x minus 1.
What's
Oh, you just take away the sign.
All you did was take away your square roots.
Oh, wow.
Okay? If they're both the square root of something, that means what's underneath of them should be equal to each other. Okay? So now we solve for x.
So you, like,
What do you want to move?
You're 4.
Subtract the x. Okay? Jeremiah said subtract the x. So we've got 4 equals x minus 1. Personally, I would have done that because they kept my x positive. That's just the way my brain works. Most people want their x's on the left. I go for whichever side keeps my x value positive. So, okay. So now, x are all on the right, so go ahead and move that 1, and you said to add.
So x equals 5.
So x equals 5.
Plug it in.
Again, we plug it in to make sure it works. So we have the square root of 5 plus 4 equals the square root of 2 times 5 minus 1. Well, what's 5 plus 4?
9.
Square root of 9. What's 2 times 5?
10.
Minus 1? Square root of 9 equals the square root of 9. Sure. So x is 5. You could have taken it one step farther and said 3 equals 3. Okay? You don't have to, though. Square root of 9 equals the square root of 9. The same thing's on the left that's on the right. You're good. Yes.
I love how you make something so easy, but when I'm by myself, it's a whole different
It's,
story.
you shut down.
Yeah. We should have like the way where we can just call you and be like, dismiss. Help us.
Okay? So, example number 5. Example number 5. We do the same thing. thing when you end up with radicals on both sides. We square both sides. So we're left with 3x plus 8 equals x plus 4. So this time, I would move my x's to the left to keep it positive. So in order to do that, I need to do what? Subtract x. Good. So 2x plus 8 equals 4. Subtract 8 from both sides. 2x equals negative 4. And divide by 2. And x is negative 2. Excellent. Okay. Again, we now plug this in and make sure it works. So we've got the square root. We've got 3 times negative 2 plus 8. And on the other side, we've got the square root of negative 2 plus 4. So that's negative 6 plus 8 gives me the square root of 2. And on the other side, negative 2 plus 4, 2. Square root of 2 equals the square root of 2. So x minus 2 is your answer.
So they just have to match up?
Yep. Your left side has to equal your right side for it to work. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
The next page is the hardest it's going to get.
Sweet. Now, none of these top hard to be on the
Okay.
one, right?
The problem with the next one is it becomes quadratics, which means we have to factor. I told you factoring's never going to go away. When you get to math 3, guess what? You have to factor.
You show us how to factor on.
Okay, we're going to go over factoring again.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's not going to go away.
Miss Smith?
Yes. What's the matter? Somebody needs glue.
I didn't know until I looked, until I just put that paper down. And it like, I was in track.
What?
Thank you. Yeah, I was in track.
All right.
No, I was in track. It costs like $60.
All right. Take a look at these ones. This one says solve the equation and check for extraneous solution. Okay? Extraneous solution is an answer that we get that when you plug it back in, it does not work. Okay? So, in these instances, we're going to end up with 2 answers.
Oh, God.
They may both work. Only one of them may work, or neither of them may work. Okay? So, watch what happens. I have 1 square root. Okay? Is it all by itself?
No. Well, yes. Yeah.
Yes, it's all by itself on the right. Okay, we don't care what's on the left. It's all by itself on the right. So, in order to get rid of that square root, I need to square it. Well, when I square the right-hand side, I also have to square the left. Oh, man. So, now I have x squared equals 42 minus x. Okay. So, this is where you end up with more than one answer. Because what do I have now with x squared? What kind of equations do I have with x squared? What? Quadratics. I now have a quadratic. So, remember, we need to go back, think back to the last unit. In order to solve a quadratic, I have to get this thing set equal to 0 first. Keep your a term positive. So your x squared should stay positive. So we're going to move everything to the left.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Well, in order to do that, I need to add x and subtract 42. So I get x squared. I'm adding x, so plus x. And I'm subtracting 42, so minus 42.
No.
Oh. Okay. Huh?
Negative 42.
So I now need to find, we're going to do the box method. Okay, so we've got x squared and negative 42. What two numbers?
Slow down. Slow
Um,
down.
okay. Okay.
Look, he like,
All right, I got you. I got you. Slow down.
right, he like,
So your A term goes in the top left box. So that came here. Your C term goes in the bottom right. That came here. Okay. So I need two numbers that multiply together to give me 42.
And they go in the other box.
And yeah, once we pick a set. Okay. So I've got 1 and 42. What else do I have? You said 6 and what? 6 and 7. We could do 2 and 21. Okay. This is a negative 42, which means we need to subtract them to get my B term. What's my B term right now?
1.
It's a 1. Which set of numbers subtract to give me 1? 6 and 7. Again, they have to subtract because this is a negative.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Yeah, but which one is gonna like?
That's what we have to decide. Which one of these is going to be positive? Which one's going to be negative? I need it to equal positive 1.
So
Negative 6. Okay. It's got to equal positive 1. So I've got a negative 6x and a positive 7x. Okay.
you can take negative 6 out.
Okay. So now I need to factor out, what does x squared and 7x, just these two, share in common? X. So that comes out. We move over to this side. What's negative 6x and negative 42 share in common? Negative 6. Okay. Now we go this way. What does x squared and negative 6x share in common? X.
7.
And 7x and negative 42? 7. So this means that my factors, I'm going to go back up here. Okay. This means that my factors are x minus 6 and x plus 7. Okay. I want both of those factors to equal 0. So my actual answers are x equals, what do I need to add to negative 6 to make it 0? 6. And on the other side, x plus 7, what does x have to be to make that 0? Negative 7. That's where your opposites come from. Okay, these are your answers. Now, we have to check both to make sure that they work. I know, it's a long, grueling process, Justin.
We've been doing this for 30 minutes.
But they usually work.
You usually end up with one answer that works and one that doesn't.
And we gotta find that out. So
You've got to figure it out. You have got to plug it in.
Oh, that's so
There
cool.
is no other way
I
around
ain't even
it.
got space to do that.
I never had it. I never needed it sometimes.
Okay. 6 equals. Guys, sitting here and complaining about it's not going to change that you've got to do this. Okay? You're just making it longer for yourself because we can't get through it because you want to stop and complain about it. Guess what? I'm going to give you an easier way.
Better. I have a question.
It's gonna be
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so the end of the year test, right?
Yes.
If you passed all the quarters, right? And you take the test and you fail, do you pass the class?
No. Depending on how high you go.
Why you had
All right.
to whisper? We all heard what you said.
Oh. I ain't gonna do it.
Okay. 6 equals the square root of 42
Would it be -6?
minus 6. Okay. 6 replaces both of your x's when you're checking it. So, does 6 equal the square root of 36? Yes. 6 equals 6.
Thank you, God.
Okay? So 6 is an answer.
Yeah.
You also need to check and make sure that 7 is or is not an answer.
Wait.
Please. What?
Huh?
42 minus 6 is 30.
Wait, I'm confused.
Isn't it a negative?
Stop.
Are you multiplying 6 and the negative with the parentheses 6?
No, it's 42 minus 6.
42 minus 6 is 36.
Oh!
So that gave you 36.
Oh, I thought it was
Square root of 36 is 6. Yeah.
It became opposite because we have to add.
Right. It became opposite because your factors was x minus 6, which makes it an opposite, which is a positive 6. Okay. All right. So please do me a favor. Do not just assume that just because 6 is an answer that means negative 7 is not. You have to check it. Yes, sir.
It is. It is, because it's going to be negative 7 equals the
Like,
square root.
We squared both sides to make it x squared.
And
So your original equation, when we plug it back in, does not contain that square. That's something that you added to it. Okay. All right. So we have to check negative 7 as well. So negative 7 equals the square root of 42 minus negative 7.
negative 7 equals the square root of 49.
Okay. So negative 7 equals the square root of 49. What's the square root of 49? 7, but not negative 7. So that is not an answer. So negative 7 does not work. Only 6 does. Negative 7 is an extraneous solution.
So he's saying
I understand that.
negative 7. They're asking for the square root of that.
But it's asking for the square root, not squaring it.
If you squared it, then the square root could be negative 7. It can't be like a positive.
Okay, but listen. If I have negative 7 equals the square root of 49, to get rid of that square root, I'd have to square both sides. So you're saying because 49 equals 49.
Yeah.
I understand what Brandon's saying.
Yeah,
but
I see what he's saying.
It's not that he's wrong. I'm trying to figure out a way to explain it
You're not supposed to go that far.
because I totally get where he's coming from.
So like, why doesn't it work?
You got a point.
He does have a point.
Wait, I don't get it. What?
Negative 7 squared.
Oh my goodness. Dude.
He's saying that if I have this, okay,
That's
That's
what we're
what
talking about.
that's what he's saying. So he's saying if I have this, to get rid of this, I could square this side and that leaves me with 49.
Right.
And then if I square this side, it's 49.
Oh,
So
it should be. Okay, I'm dead. She said, well.
But look, that's not what they asked him right there. They asked him, does negative 7 equal the square root of 49?
Yeah, it does, because your negative 7 squared is 49.
It can't be square root.
Why does it have to be positive?
But negative 7
If you're
squared
negative
is
7, you're
49.
not the exact same
The
thing.
square root of 49 is 7 or negative 7. It works. It works.
One of my ancestors got
Okay.
kicked off a pirate ship when he was 14.
Let me tell you this for now. It doesn't work. Let me think of how I want to word that
The government
get you to understand why it doesn't work. I don't want to sit here and confuse the world out of you. So just at this point,
Okay.
it doesn't work. Okay.
Okay,
Leave it
how-
at that.
How would you explain it right
The
now?
government created math.
Okay.
The government's wrong. They lied. It does work.
Okay.
They don't know stuff.
They don't know stuff.
You never thought a couple of small town kids would read into it.
Right. They're sitting here. They're going, these kids are smarter than what we are. Help me. Okay.
They're like, no.
Listen.
They're like, just tell them that
They
it's
ain't
not
gonna kill me. I tried to explain it.
Okay. We are wasting entirely too much time. Bring it down for a
We're not
second.
wasting time.
We are wasting
Debating
time.
a great question.
We are debating a great question, but we're also wasting time at this point.
It's not a waste of
Okay. So, this case, okay, and I think this is where some of you got confused when we had to do multiplying radicals. So hopefully I can catch some of you here. Okay, so when I get rid of the square root this time, I have to square both sides. But watch what happens. I'm now squaring a binomial. So that means are we done talking over me because I'm done teaching if you're going to talk? Okay. We are going to spoil. Okay. So when I square the right-hand side this time, I'm squaring a binomial, not just a number or a variable. So in order to square this, this is x plus 4 times x plus 4. I have to FOIL. So it becomes x squared plus 4x plus another 4x plus 16. Okay. First terms, x times x, x squared. Outer terms, x times 4, 4x. Inner terms, 4 times x. Again, another 4x. And my last terms, 4 times 4, 16. Refresher on foiling.
Oh.
So again, first terms, outer terms, inner terms, last terms. I now need to combine like terms before I actually put it down. So 4x and 4x go together. So we finish this off as x squared plus 8x plus 16. Okay. Again, we're left with a quadratic. Okay. So you're going to end up with 2 answers. So here, what I want you to do is move everything and keep your a value positive. So we're moving everything this time to the right. So in order to move this 2, I have to subtract. It goes with the 16, so I'm going to put it underneath the 16. In order to move my x, we add. And again, it goes with my x, so I put it there. So now I end up with 0 equals x squared plus 9x plus 14. Bless you.
Is that our answer?
So we need to factor now. You know it wasn't going to be that easy. Come on now. Okay. So again, my a term goes in the top left, so x squared. My c term goes in the bottom right, so positive 14. I now need factors of 14.
7 and 2.
7 and 2. Because this is a positive 14, they have to add to give me my middle number.
So 7 and 2.
7 and 2 work. Okay. My middle term is positive. So what sign do 7 and 2 take?
Positive.
Positive.
Wait, you're multiplying them?
We need factors of 14, which means 2 numbers that multiply to give me 14. Okay. And the factors that you end up getting have to actually add together to give you 9. Because remember, 14 could be 7 and 2 or 1 and 14. If I add these together, this one gives me 9. This one gives me 15. So that tells me I'm going to pick 7 and 2. Okay. So I've got a 7x and a 2x. What do they share in common? X squared and 2x. X. What does 7x and 14 share in common? 7 and x and 2. Okay. So this means my factors are x plus 7 and x plus 2. Okay, so x equals -7 and -2. Again, we need to plug both of these in to see if they work. So we get the square root of 2 minus -7 equals -7 plus 4. So what am I left with when I plug in -7 on the left? The square root of 9.
And it works. It's 3 plus 3.
But on the right-hand side, we're left with
Wait, no.
-3. Okay? So 3 does not equal -3. So -7 is an extraneous solution.
But it's still like the same thing.
Yes, we will get there. I promise. Okay? So again, an extraneous solution is a solution that you actually get, but when you plug it back in, it does not work. Okay? So now we're going to plug in -2. So the square root of 2 minus -2 equals -2 plus 4.
The square root of 4.
Square root of 4 equals 2. And 2 equals 2? Yes. So -2 is a solution.
Wait. What? Oh, never mind.
You good? Yeah.
Are we done?
How did you get negative numbers equal what now? Because again, whatever the factors are, the actual answer are the opposite. Every time. Yes, they become opposite. So if I have x plus 2, it's actually negative. Because your goal is you want to make your factors equal to 0. Because when you factor, remember, you're not getting rid of the equations, but the equation has to equal 0. So you have x plus 7 equals 0. So then x actually equals -7. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. That glues in. Okay.
186?
On 86.
We don't need to leave no space, right?
No. The only thing gluing in on 86.
Miss, what's your birthday?
February
February what?
25th.
Okay.
Why?
We got the same birthday.
We do? Do we really? That's exciting.
What's exciting?
Jeremiah and I have the same birthday.
That's great. Cool. What's your birthday?
February 25th.
Yours is on the 25th. Mine's on the 26th.
All good people were born in February.
No. Yeah, 16.
Sorry.
All people were born in August.
Okay, let me rephrase that. All good people were born in February and August because my daughter was born in August.
No, and March. And March. No, nobody likes March. Nobody likes you. Everybody likes you.
That's the 19th.
On the 11th.
The 19th.
Wait, on August.
What?
Mine's the 14th.
Yeah, my daughter was born the 19th.
The 19th of what?
August.
I'm the 19th. Everybody's connected.
Okay.
Birthday, so we're connected.
Okay. Take a look at number 1. This is the other piece that you cut out. Okay. You missed. Okay. I only have one radical. Is it all by itself? Yes. So my first step is to square both sides then. Be careful when you square the right-hand side because you're actually squaring -2. So we're left with x equals 4. Okay. Make sure you square -2. So it's -2 times -2, which gives you a positive 4.
That's the answer.
Does it work? We check it. So the square root of 4 equals -2. 2 equals -2.
Strenuous?
Ah! Woo!
It technically.
That laugh though.
Brandon.
I'm just gonna write
I-
it works if it does. Okay.
Oh, the government's going crazy.
It does not work.
Bro,
It does not.
if she's telling you it doesn't work, then why do you think it's gonna work?
It's edges from the
Yeah.
She dead ass.
Right.
I'll put my pussy right there.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
My best life, but she ain't dealing with you.
Take a look at number 2.
Bruh.
Okay.
So, wait,
Before.
Is that extreme?
Yes, that's extraneous. So it does not work. Okay, does not work. Take a look at number 2. Okay, before I can square both sides, I have to get the radical by itself. So what do I need to get rid of? I need to add 7. I have to get rid of that 7. It's not inside the square root. So I've got the square root of 2x plus 5 equals 3. Now that the radical is by itself, we square both sides. So 2x plus 5 equals 9. Okay. I subtract 5 from both sides. So 2x equals 4 and x equals 2. Great. Okay. Check it. Make sure it works. So I've got the square root of 2 times 2 plus 5. All that minus 7 should equal -4. So that should be the square root of 9. Good. Minus 7 equals -4. What's the square root of 9? 3. And does 3 minus 7 equal -4? Yes. So x minus 2 is the solution. Okay. I promise I did not cut this in half. I just folded it so I could get the whole thing up on the screen without it falling off my table up here. Okay. Yeah.
I know we keep talking about it, but that's gonna confuse me. The thing we did for number 1, it's gonna confuse me because it works, but it doesn't at the same time. Is there any way to like make sure that doesn't confuse the crap out of me?
Let me think on it and come up with some solution tomorrow.
Okay.
Because I don't want to confuse you any more than you already are. And I feel like if I sit here and try to explain it right now without logically thinking through it and how I can bring it across. Okay. Yes, Kate. Can you just what now?
Just find the square root instead of multiplying it. Instead of squaring it.
No, because you're going to end up with 2 different answers for this one because it's going to end up being a quadratic. Okay. Okay, so take a look at this one. While this one's going to end up being a quadratic, okay, there's a very valuable piece missing in this one, which makes it a little bit easier to solve. Okay, so is my radical by itself? Yes. So we square both sides. Okay, so 1 plus x squared equals 25.
Wait, did you have 4 there?
Okay, no, that's a 2. It just kind of bled
So
together.
you're still squared.
You're still squared. Okay,
That's just square and it's not the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
okay, yes. Good question. That square is actually underneath the square root, so. All right, so
don't
take
have
a
an
look
x.
at this one. We don't have an x value,
I was about to say-
which makes this easier. Okay, because watch what happens. When I don't have an x value, I can just move the numbers to one side and then take the square root. Okay, so I can subtract 1. So I'm left with x squared equals 24. Okay? Take the square root of both sides. So x equals, is 24 a perfect square?
No.
No.
So we're going to leave it, as the square root of 24. Okay? So now we plug that back in.
Come on now.
So the square root of 1 plus, I'm substituting the square root of 24 in for x. Don't forget that's squared in my original equation. And does that equal 5?
We don't know.
Oh, no, it's too long.
Well, hold on. Hold on. Stop. When I plug in the square root of 24, okay, and then I square that, what's that leave me with? 24. That square and that square root canceled each other out. So I actually have the square root of 1 plus 24.
Equals 5? No, it does not work. No. I was subtracting the 1.
So again, that square root and square cancel each other out. So I'm just left with my radican, which is 24. Well, what's 1 plus 24? 25.
25.
And what's the square root of 25? Does 5 equal 5?
Yes.
Yes. That is an answer.
Now let's get to this confusing.
Oh, geez.
I wasn't here.
What is that?
Wait. Go back up just a little
Yes,
bit.
you got it. You're fine.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay. Everybody looks at this one and goes, what the heck?
Does it turn out to be actually easy?
Yes.
You guys
Okay.
should say it about everyone.
So, tell me this. If I left you with a problem that looks like this,
This is harder than life.
this is easier than you think.
You said this is harder than
Okay. Listen. If I left you with something like this, how on earth would you solve this?
I like
I won't mess
Well, we would simplify.
What was, wait, Jeremiah, say that louder.
Cross multiply.
We cross multiply.
Oh.
X times 8 is 8x. 2 times 4 is 8. And then we divide by 8, and yes, Brandon was correct in x equals 1. Guess what? We can do that same exact thing with this.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can. Because 2. I can always write a whole number as a fraction by putting it over 1.
Bro, that means
So I can put this over 1, which means I can cross multiply. So I've got 2 times the square root of 5x minus 4 equals 1 times 8 is 8.
Oh, I get it.
Okay. So again, I can take any number and make it into a fraction by putting it over 1. So then when I cross multiply, the top from the first multiplies against the denominator of my second. So I get 2 times the square root of 5x minus 4. And then the denominator from the first one multiplies against the numerator of the second one. So 1 times 8. Okay, I now need to get the radical by itself by doing what?
So,
Divide by 2.
Oh, the mom? Why are we dividing?
Okay, now it makes more sense. Oh, I get it now, Miss Smith.
I just.
Yeah, you have me confused as heck.
Right. Yeah, I'm lost.
Okay, well, this is my problem. None of you had shut your mouth since the beginning of this class. And it's really, really frustrating because I'm trying to step back and talk about it, but nobody's listening, and then you have a million questions. I'm done wasting my time. You want to talk over me? Have at it. It's on you. for the last time. You put 2 over 1 to turn it into a fraction, so then you can cross multiply it. So what I did was take 2 times this radical. Whenever I do that, 2 becomes the coefficient outside of the radical. Remember, when we multiply, it's 2 times the coefficient, which is 1. So it becomes 2 square roots of 5x minus 4. Who's confused there? Okay. Then you cross multiply the other side. So 1 times 8. So that gives you 8 on the other side. Okay. Before I can square both sides, I have to get this radical by itself. Well, I've got that 2 out front. And when that's a coefficient, that means it's multiplied. So my only option to get rid of it then is to divide both sides by 2. Because that cancels it out here. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. Is everybody with me now? If you're not, I need you to tell me. Okay. My radical is now secluded all by itself on that left-hand side, so I need to get rid of it. The opposite of square root is what? Square. The opposite of the square root is to square it. So when I square that left side, the square root and the square cancel it out and leaves me with 5x minus 4. On the right-hand side, 4 squared becomes 16. Okay. I now need to solve this for x, so I need to get rid of everything outside of x. Add 4 to both sides first. Okay, good, Daniel. So that should equal 20. 5x equals 20. Divide by 5, and x equals 4. Okay. We now need to plug that into the original equation and make sure it works. Okay, so I'm going to scoot over to the check spot. Is everybody good with this? I can scoot it? Okay. All right. On the check side of it, my original equation was 2 equals 8 divided by the square root of 5 times x. So I'm going to plug in the 4. Minus 4. Okay, so this is 2 equals 8 divided by the square root. What is 5 times 4? 20 minus 4 is 16. Okay, so I get 2 equals 8 divided by 8 over 4. So 2 equals 2. Yes, that works, which means x equals 4 is a solution. Can you tell me a secret? What's your secret? What I need to happen, though, is you all just need to shut your mouths and concentrate. Because when you're worried and talking, and I understand that some of you are actually talking about math, but you're like 10 steps behind me instead of listening to what I'm saying. If we need to stop and go back, that's absolutely fine. But you need to stop me and stop the whole class and let us go back together so you're not missing anything new. Because that's when y'all get like, yes.
It's not gonna do. If we like knew that like before we even started those equations that 2 over 1 equals 8 over 4.
Just find a way to put it.
Just show it. But if I say that to the rest of the class, they're gonna get what? So I'm just gonna. You rock it. Yes, we're.
I don't want to do that. Can I see some of this?
It's quite exactly.
Or you can fold it.
What? That's crazy. The smallest one is the biggest notebook. What you know?
All right. You're probably going to have to fold that 1 in half. Okay. To glue it in on your page. It's probably not going to fit. If it fits, by all means. I fold mine in half like this.
Are we gonna have anything else
Okay, no, it's just that on that page.
Okay.
So if you just fold it in half and glue it in, okay, however you need to fit it. All right. How many of you have done Tarsia puzzles before?
Sounds like an exercise.
I'm gonna do it too. I feel sleepy.
Okay. This is a Tarsia puzzle. This is going to be your homework. Okay. So, Google is not your best friend. Okay. What I want you to do is you're going to do this on a separate sheet of paper. Okay. They each are going to need cut out and glued. So, I'm going to pick one here. Let's do, everybody might want to write this one down so you have it.
I don't have to. Can I just take a picture of it?
Okay. Yes, that's fine. Let me get one here. Let's do this one.